And welcome back to another episode of 999. We last just got out of the kitchen. We almost froze to death in the freezer. And we have now gotten out of the other side of the grate. So they stepped out of the kitchen into a hallway that looked rather familiar. A metal grate stretched from wall to wall. Beyond it were two elevators and the entrance to the kitchen. They had entered the kitchen from one door and came out the other. That meant their map of the ship's interior was accurate. They laid the map out in front of them and began to discuss their next step. There were 4 possible routes: A, B, C, and D. First, A and B. A and B both seemed to connect to an L-shaped room. However, the 2 doors that led to the room were both locked and couldn't be opened. Next was Route C. This goes all the way to the main staircase. That means it's door 5, one of the numbered doors. Then do you think we can meet up with the other 4 after this hallway? No, I don't think we will. Why not? Look, there, by the stairs. See how the gate is opened? When we went into the kitchen, it was closed, but it's open now. What do you think that means? They opened it? Most likely. Then if we take Route C, we're going backwards. That would be pointless. And that means all 4 looked at the map. They all looked at the staircase, its lazy curve leading down deeper into the ship. Route D then. D it is. Yep, Route D. Then we're set. They jogged down the stairs until they reached the C deck. Just to be sure, they kept going, to check the deck beneath. Yeah, just like I thought. D deck is totally underwater. Just like the bottom of the central staircase. The water gazed back at them, its smooth surface like a great mirror. As ominous as it was, Junpei took at least some comfort from the fact that the level hadn't gone up much since the last he'd seen it. They turned back to C deck. It didn't take them long to find the 2 elevators in front of the stairs. They looked identical to the elevators in the top floor, with one exception. These elevators had a card reader on the wall between them. On the card reader was a strange mark. Hey look, it's Lotus's symbol. Huh? See? It's a woman's symbol with a thorn on it. That seems like... Ouch! 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 Lotus had taken hold of Junpei's hair. She began to shake him violently, and he thought he heard a low growl coming from her throat. Such violence. June began to wonder if she was not the devil itself. With an uncomfortable smile, June spoke up. This is a Mercury symbol. The thorn symbolizes the wings on Hermes' staff. Hermes, Herpes, whatever. If we can't get this thing to work, these elevators aren't going anywhere. In other words, we need a key card with the Mercury symbol on it. Probably. They gave up on the elevator and returned to the stairs. A hallway stretched out to the left. A great many doors lined both sides of the hallway. They weren't sure how many, but certainly enough to be discouraging. Damn it, if we try and search all these, the sun's gonna go down before we've done half of them. I think the sun has already set. I have a feeling this ship is the only thing that's going to be going down anytime soon. That's even worse. Well, we can come back to this hallway later. Let's check the hallway on the other side, shall we? Frustration and fear building, they walked back to the stairs. To the right was a small hallway. Quickly, they headed into it. It was approximately the same size as the alcove in front of the stairs. The hallway led to the stern, and at the end it was a set of double doors. Let's open it. Junpei nodded and grabbed the one closest to him. He gave it a small tug and felt it move. It was unlocked. Thrilled to have found an unlocked door, he threw it open. Junpei didn't know what to make of what he saw. He simply stood, unable to speak. The others simply stared, open-mouthed. After a few long moments, Santa managed to speak. Well, what the hell is this? A massive room stretched out in front of them, more a cavern than a room. Its vastness was oppressive, and it bore down on the 4 companions. It was not empty, however. The entire room was filled with lines upon lines of beds. They were simple things, little more than pipe-thin mattresses. Is this a hospital? He had at last been able to put a name to the harsh scent that pervaded the room. The room swam with the harsh, biting smell of antiseptic. In the center of the room were shelves stacked with medicine, and a number of medical devices, the function of which Junpei didn't know. More importantly, however, on the back wall of the room were 4 doors. 3 of them were emblazoned with large single-digit numbers made with thick red paint. The door on the left was labeled 3. The second door from the left had no number, but the third had been given a 7. And the rightmost door had an 8. There could be no doubt they were numbered doors. It did strike Junpei as strange, however, that the door between 3 and 7 should be blank. What, he wondered, could it mean? Let's take a look at the doors. Yes, that sounds like a good plan. Junpei headed toward the doors, weaving his way between the beds. He started with door 3 on the left, and moved to the right until he reached door 8. It's no use. Well, of course. If it was that easy to open these doors, what would be the point of the non-ring game? You have to activate the red, or the numbers doors won't. Wait a minute. What's wrong? Look, the display on the red. There's nothing on it. Huh? Don't you remember? The red at the central staircase? If no one was inside, it said vacant. Oh yeah, you're right. But this one... there's nothing on it. Right? I wonder if it's broken. Only one way to find out. It didn't respond. All 4 took turns placing their hands over the red, but it refused to respond. They pulled the lever, and it still did nothing. As they soon discovered, it wasn't the only red for door 8 that was behaving strangely. The red on door 7 also refused to respond. And door 3 was similarly silent. None of them would respond. What did it mean? Haha, I knew it. They're broken. Zero sure sucks at maintenance. No, that's impossible. You really think Zero, who prepared all of this, would make such a stupid, simple mistake? Maybe, but that doesn't explain why this thing ain't working. It was at that moment that they heard a voice from behind them. I believe the bottom of the device has been removed. They spun around to see. Snake! But it was more than just Snake. Ace, Clover, and 7 quickly filed into the room as well. Although they were glad to see one another, it wasn't terribly surprising that they had. If it had been the other party who'd opened the gate in front of the kitchen, it wasn't unreasonable that they bump into one another eventually. The rest of Snake's team, however, did look rather surprised. How? How did you end up here? After a moment of silence and surprise, everyone suddenly began to talk, desperate to exchange information. They talked about the rooms they'd been through, and how they ended up in the same place. Of course, none of it was very useful information, but that hardly mattered. They were happy to simply see one another again. Although the level of cheer varied greatly from person to person, each one of them was wearing some manner of smile. Almost as though they had already forgotten about the death of the 9th man. No, thought Junpei, perhaps that wasn't it. Perhaps thoughts of his death were what drove them to smile at one another. Not in a morbid or hateful way, no. The 9th man had died. But they were still alive, and that was something to be happy about. A sort of simple, uncomplicated joy, Junpei thought. The joy of being alive. Still alive. He felt sorry for the 9th man, but more than anything, Junpei was just happy to be alive. There you have it, our half of the story. His part finished, Ace fell silent. For a moment, Junpei was silent, in thought. Then he spoke. Okay, let me see if I got all of this straight. When you guys got here, the bases for the Reds were already gone. And you looked all over this room, but you couldn't find anything. So you figured that there might be something in the hallway with all the doors. So you went and had a look. Yeah. And while you were looking around, you heard voices. Uh-huh. So you followed the voices and came back here. Indeed. And that was how we found you. Junpei examined the 3 reds again, just in case. On the bottom of each was a long, thin gap. It looked like a slot for something, probably something electronic. Well, this isn't good. If the red is inactive, we can't keep going. Well, what about the hallway over there? Isn't there anything else we can go? Anywhere else we can go? No, there isn't. There are plenty more hospital rooms, but nothing else. Hospital rooms? That's what's behind all those doors? Yes. There are a number of individual rooms, in addition to this larger one. There was a door at the end of the hallway, but it was locked. There was an astrological symbol engraved near the keyhole, however. I was able to get a good feel of it. I believe it was the symbol of Jupiter. Not again. Those goddamn things are everywhere. I wonder what they all mean. For a moment, everyone was silent, deep in thought. While we're asking what things mean, what's the deal with this room? I mean, I thought this was a cruise ship, but I can't imagine a cruise ship would have a hospital like this. Of all people, it was Seven who answered, and with calm confidence. Well, I figure it's probably a hospital ship. Chances are, it's the Gigantic. The Gigantic? Junpei looked confused. So did everyone else. What is this Gigantic? Seven knit his brows for a moment, then began to explain. The Gigantic. He explained that she had been a sister ship to the Titanic, built in the early 20th century. The Titanic had 2 sister ships, who were identical to one another in nearly every aspect. The Gigantic was said to be one of those. She was initially intended to be a passenger liner, like the Titanic, but soon after the ship was launched, the First World War began, and she was pressed into duty by the British Navy as a hospital ship. Sometime later, the Gigantic was damaged by a German mine in the Aegean Sea. She managed to run aground after the incident, and consequently was not sunk. What then happened to the Gigantic after a fateful encounter in the Aegean Sea? One theory ran that a man named Lord Gourdane purchased her. Lord Gourdane, it seemed, had been one of the few survivors of the Titanic tragedy, and that trauma had turned him into an obsessive collector of all things related to the Titanic. As his obsession deepened, he began to desire the Titanic itself. That, of course, was impossible. The Titanic lay at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The Gigantic, however, had not suffered such a dire fate, and as she was identical to her sister ship, she caught Lord Gourdane's eye. So you're saying this Lord Gourdane bought this ship? Yeah, at least I think I am. That's impossible. No way we're in some boat that's almost 100 years old. Pipe down, just pay attention. What, that's it? Well, have you got any proof? Proof? Proof that this ship is really the Gigantic? Well, this ship's got stuff that's like the Titanic and a hospital ship. So I just figured... Oh, for goodness, don't tell me that's your only reason. No, I've got more. Like? Well, I mean... Seven looked around desperately, doing anything to avoid meeting Lotus's piercing stare. He scratched his head for a moment, then gave up. Finally, he opened his mouth. I don't know. Lotus sighed and shook her head. I guess your memory isn't back yet, is it? Yeah, sorry about that. Hey. Wait a minute. Memory isn't back? Junpei was, he felt, legitimately shocked by what seemed to be new and very important information. Everyone else, however, seemed unimpressed. In fact, they all looked at Junpei as though he had said something very strange. He decided to revise his attitude for the next question. Wait, was I the only one that didn't know? Everyone nodded. Why? Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't tell you, huh? I told the rest of them before we ran into you on the stairs. I told them I couldn't remember a damn thing from before I woke up. What? Then, almost as if to save Junpei from further embarrassment, a bell began to ring from far away. It sounded as though it was the clock at the main stairway. Junpei counted each chime carefully. 10, 11, 12. It's midnight. Then we've still got 6 hours left, right? We don't have any time to screw around. Let's get going. We gotta find the missing parts for the Reds. What do you mean, find? How on earth do you propose we do that? We've looked everywhere in this room. That only leaves one place to look. One. Well, I guess it's not really right. Wait. Don't tell me we need to search all of the other rooms. Don't freak out. We already searched 4 of them. 4 rooms. We just have to split the rest between the 8 of us. If each person does 6 rooms, that'll be 48 rooms, right? So there are 48 rooms left? Her early experiences had apparently not encouraged Lotus to trust Seven. Seven scratched his head awkwardly. I don't know. After a little more discussion, they split up and headed toward the rooms to begin searching them. Junpei was chosen to search the rooms on the starboard side, moving from fore to aft. They also determined when they would return to report their findings, the next time the clock sounded the time. When it did, they would meet back in the large central room full of beds. If, during the search, any one of them were to locate the missing components, they were to yell for the others. If this strategy failed, they would return to discuss their options later. The details decided, they left to begin searching. Out into the hall they went, each of the rooms they'd been assigned. However, from far away, Junpei heard the bell ring. It did so only once. It was 1 a.m. He jogged through the entrance of the large hospital room to find 6 of the others already there. Ace, Santa, Clover, June, Seven, and Lotus. They had gathered in front of the door numbered 8. Or perhaps, to be accurate, they had gathered in front of the red next to the door number 8. Had one of them found the missing piece? What happened, guys? It was June who answered him. Jumpy, look! She was pointing at the red. He pushed through the others until he stood in front of it. Immediately, he knew what she had meant. Display on the front of the red read vacant. Junpei sighed. Come on, guys, who was it? I thought we were supposed to yell if we found it. Well, Junpei wondered why she was hesitating. The others looked as confused as June, but kept their mouths shut. What the hell? What is up with you guys? They all knew something he didn't, and Junpei wasn't about to leave things that way. Finally, Lotus frowned and spoke. Well, that's the thing. We don't know. You don't know? When I got back, it was already like this. There was no one else here. That means I was the first one back, but the missing parts were already back in the red. Junpei looked at the bottom of the red again, just to make sure. The slot had been opened on the that had been opened on the bottom was now covered with metal. Clearly, whatever had been missing had been returned. What about the other 2? They're the same. Junpei quickly examined the other 2 boxes. Satisfied that they were also repaired, but still very confused, he returned to the others. Alright, I just want to be sure here. Nobody has any idea what the hell happened here, right? Ace and June nodded silently. Seven braced his hands as if to say, not me, and Santa just shrugged. Only Clover lowered her head and did nothing. Huh? Wait a minute. That was when he noticed. Where's Snake? Junpei swept his eyes across the room a second time, but Snake was nowhere to be seen. Does that mean he found them? I've no idea. There's nothing to suggest it, but nothing to suggest he didn't either. I don't suppose we'll know until we can ask him in person. Well, whatever he did or didn't do, he's pretty damn late. What the hell is he up to? Maybe he's lost? Yeah, well, that seems likely. Dude can't see. I don't know how he gets around in the first place. Clover raised her head. No, that's impossible. Suddenly, she was shouting. Yeah, my brother's blind, but he's got really great hearing. He can get around as well as anyone who can see. So he couldn't get lost. That's impossible. Clover had started to shake, and the knuckles of her hands had gone white. She spun around, but before she did, Junpei noticed tears welling up in her eyes. I'm gonna go look for him. The words were barely out of her mouth when she began to run. Hey! Hold on, Clover, wait! Junpei cried out to her, but he was too slow. She kept going, and before anyone else could react, she was gone. Damn it. What should we do now? Well, the red is working now. No, we're not leaving 2 people behind. We should go look for them. Oh man, this ain't good. Oh yes, what an excellent idea. We just wasted a bunch of time looking for some piece of electronic junk. Now let's waste some more by looking for a couple of idiots. Then remain here if you feel you must, but there's no time. We've only 5 hours left. Junpei and the others nodded to one another and took off at a run. In front of the stairs that led to B deck, they decided to split up. They quickly assigned search areas and went their separate ways. Soon only 2 of them were left. Those 2 were Junpei and June, who had been a few steps behind the others. Alright, we should go too. Yeah, let's go. But where should we start? Let's see. Let's start with the casino B deck. How about the casino on B deck? Okay, sounds good. They took off up the stairs at a run. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails. Hey, what do you think you're doing? She glanced up at him, unimpressed. Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake. I'm just not seeing it. Really? Maybe you need to look harder. Junpei didn't think that was the problem. Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it? Sure, let's listen. What is it? Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up? Team up? Yeah. You need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a number door? Even if you want to, that's impossible. Why? Jumpy's bracelet number is 5 minus 6 and yours is 8. Our digital root would be 1. But there's no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors there are 3, 7, and 8. Then we add another person. Huh? Who? What, isn't that easy? 7. She was right. If they added 7, 5 plus 6 plus 8 plus 7. All that jazz. Okay, 8. And the 4 of them could go through the number 8 door. But... whoa, hold on a sec. What about the other 4? Why don't you add them up? That was simple enough. Got the digital root of 1. The digital root for those 4 would be 1. That's right. And you know, the number 1 door is in the big hospital room, right? Of course I know that. No. Are you saying you leave them behind? Of course not. What kind of woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we? Then we wouldn't really be leaving them behind. Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you'd do anything of the sort. Really? Why do you think that? You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left, even if we manage to escape. There's no way we could come back to rescue them in less than 5 hours. Well, you never know until you try. No, you're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. The 4 of us couldn't open door 9. It's hidden, but the exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Yeah, that's right. Digital root for us 4 would be 8, so we'd have to add 8 to make 9. Right. Unless we bring ace 2, we'll be stuck. Lotus scratched the back of her ear. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said. Nor did she seem particularly surprised. Well, let's try and find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us. That's impossible. Are you being serious? You do know that only 5 people at most can go through one of the number doors, right? The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind. You're right, that is true. The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine. It was true. How Lotus could remain cavalier about it, so terrifying a prospect was beyond him. When they found the number 9, they would have to choose which 3 of them would die. Lotus's forehead furrowed. Do you think I could have a moment alone? There are some things I need to think about. Junpei and June turned and began walking away from Lotus. Talking to her had left them feeling ill. Junpei's heart felt heavy and his steps sluggish. But, he told himself, pessimism would get them nowhere. So he forced himself to smile and turned to June. Let's focus on finding Snake for now, okay? Yes, you're right. We can think about those other things later. Junpei nodded. Alright, where should we go next? Let's try the first class cabin B deck. Let's go take a look at the first class cabin. It's really close. They turned around and took off down the hallway to their left. Outside the first-class cabin, they found Clover. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point on the wall, her eyes blank. What should Junpei do? Let's talk. Are you alright? He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond. Look, I know you're worried, but, He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She had suddenly lost her brother, who she seemed to have been very close to. Alone. Her voice was thin and barely audible. Alone. Alone. I said, leave me alone! Suddenly, she was screaming. You're so annoying, just go away and leave me alone. Just looking at you guys, it's pissing me off. Go away, okay? Just go, somewhere else, stop bothering me. Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. Jun's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well. Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me? Fine, forget it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just... Alright, let's go, Jun. Yeah. They turned and left Clover. As they did, Junpei glanced back over her shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of their situation, but Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed. For Clover's sake, they had to find Snake, and fast. He did his best to push away the misery and depression and forced a smile. So, where do you think we should go next? We did the casino, hallway, all the rooms. Hey, why don't we go back to C deck? We can take a look at the hallway with all the rooms. Okay, let's get going then. Together they ran down the stairs. Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted Ace. Hey, Snake, where are you? Answer me if you're there. Junpei paused. What do you want to do? Let's run to Ace, see what's going on. With Jun in tow, Junpei jogged up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them. Ah, hello there. Snake is... well, that's obvious, isn't it? I assume you haven't found me yet either? Junpei nodded. I really wonder where he could have gone. Well, wherever he's disappeared to, we must find him as quickly as we can, for Clover's sake. Right. Jun's face looked kind of enraptured. By the way, do you think Clover and Snake are really siblings? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? The question seemed somehow odd to Junpei. Why? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They don't look alike at all. Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke. Yes, you know, now that you mention it, they don't. Now that you mention it? Still, there are a great many siblings who do not look like one another. It certainly isn't rare. Junpei wasn't sure why, or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn that Ace's face tightened as he spoke. At any rate, we really must find Snake as soon as possible. The clock is ticking. We really can't afford to waste any time. Very well, let's get back to the search, shall we? You can leave this area to me. Alright. Let's go, Jumpy. At Jun's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in turmoil. There was so much to think about, but no, it would have to be put aside for now. As Ace had said, finding Snake was their top priority. Junpei did his best to clear his mind. Alright, where should we go next? Well, we saw the other ones, so... the hospital room. Why don't we go back to the big hospital room? Okay, let's go then. They turned and headed back toward the large hospital room. On the way to the large hospital room, Junpei and Jun noticed Santa standing next to the number 3 door. Junpei paused. What should Junpei do? Sure, let's talk to him. Junpei and Jun walked up to Santa. What are you doing? What, you can't tell? I'm checking out the red. Why, is there something bothering you? What, it's not bothering you? Huh? This, the guts of this red. Why wouldn't you wonder who the hell put it back in here? Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious too, but... who do you think did it? Santa's eyes narrowed as he looked at Jun. She shook her head. I don't know. Well, what about you, Junpei? Who do you think fixed this thing for us? Snake, Lotus, Zero, someone of them. I guess I would probably say Zero? I think it was probably Zero. Why? Isn't that obvious? He's the guy who set this whole thing up. You don't think that should mean the opposite? It seems to me like he didn't do it. I mean, who do you think took that stuff out in the first place? Probably Zero. Yeah, exactly. Why the hell would he put them back in after he'd taken them out himself? Just doesn't make sense. Why do all that work? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So what happened then? Who put that stuff back in the reds? Junpei furrowed his brow. So, in other words, one of us is the person who fixed the red? Santa grinned. Bingo! We have a winner. But if that's true, then the person who did it doesn't want the rest of us to know. They fixed the red. Yeah. But why? No idea. Maybe if they come clean on that, it means we find out something else. Something bad. Something bad? Dunno. But whatever it is, it's gotta be worth hiding. Of course, it could have something to do with Snake's disappearance. You think maybe they did something to Snake? It's not out of the question. Junpei stared at Santa. There was something about him that made Junpei wary. At first, he assumed the other man wasn't terribly clever, but Junpei was beginning to think he would need to reevaluate that assessment. When Santa spoke again, his voice was quiet. Look, if you trust anybody in this game, you're gonna lose. You've gotta be careful. The person you trust the most could turn out to be the one who stabs you in the back. With that depressing suggestion, he turned and quietly walked away. Junpei and June looked at one another and smiled awkwardly. Where would they go next? Call the searching done. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found. Lotus looked around at six frustrated faces and spoke. We can't keep looking for Snake. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving. Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, Seven spoke. We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not going to find Snake. There's a problem, though. We've got to figure out who's going to go through which door. Yes. I have a proposal. She walked back and forth across the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped. Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice? Sacrifice? Well, perhaps that's a bit harsh for word, but yes. You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors. We split into two teams of 4 and 3 people respectively, then 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 and 2 people respectively, then 2 people will be left behind. But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind. Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. She was right. It wasn't pleasant, but she was right. There wasn't any way that the numbers worked out. If one group was 4, the other group would always have a digital route that didn't match the door. When Seven spoke, his voice was strained. Then you're saying we could decide who's going to stay behind? Yes, we do. Given our circumstances, it's logically and morally the best solution. If the other 6 are to survive, then 1 person has to sacrifice themselves. No, that's too cruel. What's so cruel about it? To just sacrifice someone like that? Then what's your plan? Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1. That's not what I meant. We shouldn't sacrifice anyone. I told you, that's impossible. Wake up. Whoa, calm down, you 2. Santa stepped between Lotus and June. Look, what Lotus is trying to say is that you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right? Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who will be sacrificed is through a vote. What do you think? No, that's terrible. I'm not asking you. Shut up. What about you, Santa? Me? Well, I agree, I guess. Alright, that's 1 vote for. Counting mine, that's 2. 7? Can't say I agree with you, but we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die. Glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover? Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body dropped. Junpei didn't know if she'd even heard Lotus' proposal. Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder. Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors. We searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Doesn't that mean he has to have gone through one of them somehow? Clover slowly lifted her face. Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice one person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me, right? Clover nodded once. Motion carries. Lotus spun around and walked towards Junpei. Now, let's start a vote too. That won't be necessary. Ace had barely spoken for Lotus' entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice, or even care. I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes? Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that. That won't solve anything. June's voice shook, and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her. June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself. Huh? I trust you, and each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's optimistic, and then there's just nuts. Those doors only go one way. You go in, you don't come out. If you go through them, you won't be able to return, correct? Yeah. True, but that will not be the case once you escape from the ship. What? Please, I beg you, once you escape, come back and rescue me. Ideally within the time limit Zero has given us. No, that's ridiculous. There's no way we can get back in time. Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer. We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the hell we are. How on earth are we going to find someone to come and rescue you? Then perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me? Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind? Ace's voice was dignified, without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal. You see, there's no other choice. Then I see we've come to our conclusion. Go on. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go, quickly. Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. June bit her lip so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against a wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace, with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others. Good. Let's accept his kind offer, then. She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own. Good. I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap. Perhaps it's my age, but I get tired so easily these days. As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship was screaming. Would it really hold until their time was up? Already, D-deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first. Well, what are you waiting for? We're wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up? As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once. You're right, we should get going. That's all we can do right now. 7. Seriously, honestly, I was getting kind of sick of listening to you guys talk. You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Well, wait, all of you? Let's just calm down and think about this. There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be. Right, Jumpy? Say something. Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way. His words sounded hollow and fake. Fine. Forget about it. I'll figure it out on my own. She spun around and ran toward Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled. Come on, Ace, please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here. Then it happened. Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold. Ace! June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up. What happened, Ace? Say something. She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open. I'm all right. His voice was weak and slightly slurred. How are you fine? This. He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand. It was a syringe, a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the side. There was a label taped to the side of the container. It read Soparil Beta. Soparil Beta? Junpei had no idea what it meant, or what kind of medicine it might be. Did you use this? Yes. It's just an anesthetic. I'll be fine. Anesthetic? I found it earlier while we were searching the hospital rooms. I thought it might be useful later. Huh. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself. Why did you do this? Didn't I tell you? I'd like to take a nap. I really am very tired. Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with an anesthetic to forestall Junpei and June's attempts to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He'd injected himself so they would be forced to leave him behind. Ace, is there something you want to say? I just feel asleep. A little. Could you keep it down? No! Don't, Ace. Don't fall asleep. You feel warm. So comfortable. I think I'll have a nice dream. Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying. Ace! Ace! She shook his shoulder again and again. This time, he didn't respond. Only gentle rising and falling of his chest told him he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was, in fact, still breathing. He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity. Well, we really don't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste, right? She wasn't feeling any remorse. Junpei was sure of that. Still, he held no grounds upon which to oppose her. It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly Santa spoke. Yeah, but we're not done choosing yet, are we? Huh? What do you mean? Well, we haven't decided who's going in what door. Ah, yes, that's true. Well, enough screwing around. Let's decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want? I want door number 8. It's the same number as my bracelet. Got it? You're 8. You're next, 7. Which one do you want? I'll take 7. I can't get along with that old lady. What? What did you just say? Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step towards 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Ah, you're gonna get it next time. She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off. Alright, who's next? Santa's gaze moved across the 3 people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei. Junpei, which door do you want? At last, Junpei's mind was already made up. Door 3, door 7, or door 8. We will pick a door next time. And maybe find out what happened to Snake.